Hello, everyone that's tuning into Tora-Connect. My name is Sally, and I am a Tora-Con staff artist. Today, I'm going to be interviewing longtime Tora-Con guests, the Chalk Twins, and so I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves and describe a little bit about what they do.
I'm Devin.
And I'm Lexi. And we do large murals in chalk, soft pastels, and we've traveled the country, and I know you've probably seen us at Tora-Con if you've been in the past, and so we're so glad to do this year.
All right, we're glad to have you. How did you guys start making large chalk pieces?
You mean, how did we get started?
Yeah, like what made you choose the large chalk pieces as opposed to any other kind of art?
Yeah, I feel like it's something that just kind of happened naturally. We started out in high school here in Orlando, where we're from. We have chalk art competitions. I feel like you find them a lot of places where the weather is nice, like California.
But there is one in Rochester.
And yes, and there is one in Rochester as well. And so we, ever since high school, we were asked to represent our school as artists and participate in that. And we just kind of fell in love with the medium. We loved that we could work large, on a large scale.
The interaction with the people,
yeah.
It just, everything felt so good to us. And we went to art school, but this is for different mediums besides chalk art, but this is what we love to do.
Yeah, especially working together as well.
Definitely.
Yeah, and what made you choose anime as a subject?
Well, we are kind of inspired to create art based on like what we love personally. So anime was a huge inspiration right from the beginning, and like all nerdy things. And so especially we found a connection with people who like anime and who like art. Like there's definitely a connection between those two.
It's a very visual medium, and so I think the people that enjoy the medium of anime and manga can definitely appreciate art as well. And so it's a great combination.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. Do you guys remember what introduced you to anime? Was it a certain show or a friend or a club or something?
Yes. So actually, Devin was still in.
I'd taken an additional bonus class over the summer of my senior year of college,
and I was home alone. And I had heard about this anime thing. I had seen some like Studio Ghibli movies and stuff, but I wanted to like get into shows. And so I was like, okay, let me take a dive into this. And my first anime that I watched was Bleach. And I got really into it. I got the first arc down, and then Devin came home, and I was like, watch this with me, please.
And it's a casual, like 700 episodes. It'll be fine.
And that just like sparked our love, and we went from there. Went old school too, watched some like Cowboy Bebop, and just bounced around and tried to catch up and stay relevant. And
yeah, I feel like because we started watching anime kind of late, I guess quote unquote later than most people, we felt like there was always some kind of catching up to do. And so we kind of dove in head first of like whatever piqued our interest, like what was coming out then when we first started watching versus like the classics. We tried to like keep a balance of both.
Yeah, Bleach is a pretty good one to come in on. There's a lot of people to talk to about it.
Yeah.
Do you guys have similar tastes, or are you very different?
I think we have similar tastes. I think there's some that maybe like are different on our lists, but are still both on our list.
Yeah. We both have like a to watch anime list. I feel like we rank them higher or lower. But we generally have the same taste, which makes it really nice to have a buddy in watching stuff together, because that just makes it all the more enjoyable.
Yeah, I know I like to talk to my own twin about whatever we're watching.
It's so nice.
Do you have a favorite? Do you either of you have a favorite show in particular?
Well, ever since I watched Fullmetal Alchemist, that specifically Brotherhood, I automatically just, that flew up on the top of my list. So
yeah, that one's hard to beat. It just has everything. Like it has the heart, the action, the fantasy.
Yeah.
I think, I know in general, I like also like Mushishi and stuff like that. Yeah. Like that's a really awesome one that is like a bedtime story to me, and so I like watching it.
Yeah, it's very calming,
but it's completely different.
Yeah. and I feel
it's visually very interesting too.
It is, yes,
definitely.
Yeah, and that kind of always grabs our attention too. Like, I think that's another reason why I think Fate Zero is another high one on our list, because not only is the story amazing, but the studio that made it is just like top notch, and so it feels like you're watching just like a full length movie. And
for sure,
can't get much better than that.
So back to the chalk work. How do you start planning your pieces?
That comes like, depending on the piece, sometimes we can start thinking about the design and stuff several months, up to 6 months or something before a project actually happens. And, it depends on exactly like what we're doing. Sometimes we work with clients on exactly like what they're looking for, because they're very like specific about their brand or stuff like that.
Or if a convention has a theme and we go with that theme,
right? But
sometimes they leave it up to us, and so we just go with like what we're feeling at the time.
Yeah, what's kind of in the zeitgeist. And so yeah, I do. Devin here does a lot of the design. We talk about it together, but I'm the one that actually like sketches it out, does a bunch of thumbnails and like kind of sloppy photoshopping jobs and until we get like kind of the composition and the feel of what we're going for. And then I actually like draw out the lines of and like basic coloring of what we want to do. But from there, a lot of times that's mostly where we stop, because we have just a general idea. And so once we create it live, we kind of figure out the little details like while we're working live, which I think for the most part works, like, especially if we're deciding like, oh, I don't know, like what little detail to put here or versus there. And sometimes you just have to see it in person, like while you're doing it to finally make those decisions. So it's our process. I feel like it can be a little bit, random sometimes, but like that's what for us keeps it interesting.
Yeah. And how do you go from that small sketch to the big canvas you're working on? Do you just kind of eyeball it, or do you have a specific method from going to small to large?
We actually use a projector. It saves us so much time, and we don't have to do like our like line work again. So yeah, that's what we've usually done. Because we can do like the creating method, the just eyeballing it, but that
and once I've worked out all my line details, I want to keep them as accurate to my drawing as possible. So for us, just projecting it up on the canvas or whatever surface we're working on works the best.
Yeah, it seems like the most straightforward.
Yeah. I mean, sorry.
What's the typical size of one of your chalk pieces?
I think for a lot of our pieces, it's probably about 5 feet by 7 feet to anywhere to like 6 by 12. Like it kind of like that. I think that's the sweet spot for us.
Yeah, that's kind of our like medium range.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We've gone much smaller and we've gone much larger, but I think most of our sizes are in that range.
Yeah, I mean that works well because like we're at that size, we can really get into a piece. Like it's big enough where people can see it and see us working live instead of like both of us hovering over it and people can't really see what's being done. We have worked on pieces over 1,000 square feet to where like you really need like you need to get up higher to see the whole thing together. Yeah, for us, we've kind of found like that sweet spot where people can see it, but it doesn't take up an entire sidewalk or hallway or wherever we're going.
Yeah, what was that really big piece?
I think the largest one we've done was the Monopoly piece.
Yeah.
We did a Monopoly piece, like life-size Monopoly board for
in Seattle.
Yeah, for the Gates Foundation in Seattle.
Yep. Yeah, and
wow.
So we did the actual board, and then we also had pieces, like actual pieces where you could like set it down like a big inflated dice and like a clown shoe and had been painted silver and stuff like that. It was really, really cute.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
For the more typical sweet spot size chalk pieces, about how much chalk do you use?
Oh, that's a good question. It's hard to tell since a lot of times, they come in like sticks and we don't usually use like a whole stick for a color. But I would say if I was to guess, somewhere between like 10 to 15, no, 10 to 20.
Yeah, my initial thought was like 20. It depends. Yeah.
Because I mean, I know sometimes, like I said, we use a lot of colors and stuff, but we use black and white the most.
Yes.
And so I think that's how we can judge a piece. I'm like,
yes.
I use 6 pieces of white just for this piece, and you use 3 blacks. So
yeah, exactly.
And then all the random colors.
Right. Yeah, because for the most part, like all of our colors, like we custom blend. And so, each individual area will have, like 2 to 4 or 5 colors all in one area, just depending. And so,
yeah, I guess that's why. Okay, the actual answer is if you're saying like how many like full sticks, I think the number is quite lower than people think. But I know when I am doing a color or like a piece, I can take out almost every color in our boxes and just like experiment and like use almost everything.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and you'll find in our container of chalk a lot, mostly just half pieces that we've like just used halfway. And so when we're working like in a big swatch of purple or something, and we only find pieces that are like a 1/4 inch big, that's all we have anymore. We're like, what are we doing?
What kind of chalk do you use? Is it regular like Crayola sidewalk chalk or something a little bit more specialized?
We tend to use the brand COS or Art Alternatives. It's a soft pastel brand. So it's a bit higher quality than your sidewalk chalk. It has a lot more pigment. but it's still a good like price point. We do use Crayola in themes that are more for the sidewalk for like really large areas. But that's what we tend to use is those really nice soft pastels.
Yeah, and sometimes we'll use the really small sticks or even pastel pencils
for really fine detail work.
For really itty bitty details. And yeah, it just kind of depends on the piece and the size.
So a lot of our attendees will probably recognize you from Tora-Con, but what other cons do you exhibit at?
Gosh, we have been all over the country.
We do a lot in the Southeast since we're based here in Florida.
Yeah.
So MegaCon, people have seen us at. We've gone to Anime Expo for about 6 years or so. So I think a lot of people have seen us there. But then we've been to a lot of different states. So we've been to
a bunch of Wizard Worlds.
Yeah, Wizard Worlds and fan conventions, fan expo conventions.
Yeah, fan expo. Yeah, because we're our nerdiness kind of defies boundaries. We love both anime conventions and just like general fandom conventions. So we kind of I don't know. We like to do it all and see a whole bunch of different conventions.
Yeah, very across the board.
Yeah.
In a typical year with in-person conventions, about how many do you attend per year?
Gosh, it really depends on the year.
Well, I think a good average, well, we did the first couple, I think, years we did about 12 or so a year.
No, I think at one point we were doing up to 20 conventions a year for a couple years there. I thought it did, and it just became like too much.
Yeah.
Because we were basically just like living on the road. We hadn't we hadn't like had a home base in a long time where we were just like going. And so we kind of realized like, okay, that's kind of our max. That's our max. Yeah. And so we've been like feeling out what feels best for us. And I think we've gotten it down to
like the 8 to 12.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Are there non-anime, non-fan convention events that you also tend to do every year?
Actually, yes. We started out doing those street festivals, and we haven't done much in the way of those, but the one that we tend to do every year when we can is the Marietta, Georgia Chalktoberfest.
Chalktoberfest.
Yeah. So that's one of our favorites. We love doing those events. It brings us to our fellow street artists.
And it's really, it just turns into like a big party.
Definitely.
Yeah. Where we get to like nerd out with our fellow artists in a different way than with anime or fandom. And yeah, we do that. And then we have annual events that our local mall holds. And so we do a couple of those every year. And I'm trying to think. The other like non-conventions of convention events tend to be one-offs. Like the convention just happens to line up with our schedule that year or the event. And but one event that we did for about 5 years in a row was the Mickey and Minnie event. And that was a Mini Cooper enthusiast club. And So it was very, very random. We don't own a Mini Cooper. I wouldn't even say that we really are car junkies or anything like that. But these people really, really love their cars, and so we did.
They're so much fun to hang out with too. And I mean, we might not enjoy cars are fun, but they're not like our super passion. But they definitely made it more fun.
Yeah.
And it was fun to draw cars for them.
Yeah, we ended up drawing a whole bunch of cars for them, and it got to the point where we could figure out oh, okay, that's that model of Mini Cooper over there, and then that's the Countryman over here. Again, I don't own a Mini Cooper, but
now I know so much.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That sounds like a lot of fun. At events where there isn't a set subject matter like Chalktoberfest, what sort of subject do you guys like to put into your chalk pieces?
So yeah, sometimes even those events have themes, but this past year it didn't, and it left it open to us, and that took some thinking. But we ended up going kind of for that one,
we drew a large portrait,
which
is what we kind of gravitate towards,
whether it's cartoon or realistic.
Yeah.
We love portraiture.
Yeah, and I think it makes it more interesting for the audience as well to see people. But yeah, we did a large portrait, and we kind of try to tie in themes of the area. We're basically right next to Atlanta, and so we tried to fit the theme of Atlanta and kind of represent the city itself. So at that point we like to not only challenge ourselves if there's no theme, but we like to
get outside the comfort zone and experiment a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting for people to be able to see a person come together from scratch.
Yeah. Well, and it can be a little intimidating too, because if there's one thing that people know, it's the human face. And so if you don't get one little thing right, you step back from it and you're like, I don't know what's wrong, but I know it's wrong. And everyone else will see it too, whether it's the nose is a little off, or
one eye's higher than the other.
Yeah, the chin's a little too long or something like that. And so that for us is a fun challenge to be able to, to make it look the best we can. And if there's a specific person too that we're trying to portray,
I think that makes it honestly even harder when someone knows what a specific person looks like a famous person.
Yeah.
Because that image is kind of burned into your head.
Yeah.
So, or if they're just really, really well known. So you know exactly every detail, even if you don't really know that you know that.
Yeah. But it makes it fun too that we can, for us, it's we get to kind of study their face and stuff. And I feel like we get to know them better because of it. I don't know if that sounds weird or not, but.
Well, I think that honestly, I definitely think that's 100% true. But I think that's also true with anything that we draw.
Yeah, that's true.
I get to know glass better, and plants and whatever. And that's what I find really fun about art, and really getting to know the subject matter.
Or even with anime, they'll we try to kind of go into their style, whatever anime were doing like their particular style. So like studying that and then studying like the show's color palette and stuff like that. It's a challenge, but it's one that I like to tackle.
Yeah, were there any specific pieces for those events or for conventions or anything that were just particularly challenging besides being an image of a celebrity?
Well, the one that jumps to my mind actually is one we did at Tora-Con a couple years ago. We did a tribute to Studio Ghibli. And so we had, I believe, 10 to 12 movies represented all in one image. And so bringing all of those, like having to bring all of those movies together in one cohesive image that doesn't look too busy or, you know, that makes sense visually, that in itself was a real design challenge. So for that, you know, like I said, we kind of studied the color palette of different shows or movies. But for that one, I kind of made up my own color palette to kind of tie all the movies together to make it more cohesive.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of differences between them.
Yes.
Yeah.
It says on your website that you guys are award-winning chalk artists. What sort of awards have you guys gotten from this?
Mostly those come from the street festivals. They're judged, and we've gotten a lot of first place awards for different categories that we've been in. And
yeah, Disney used to have a Festival of the Arts as well that was juried, that we participated in, golly, like 8 years or so. And yeah, I think, yeah, most of them have come from those street festivals and just, you know, presenting our art with 50 to 100 other artists and kind of growing the chalk art community and being able to show off different skills and stuff like that.
Yeah. Are those 50 to 100 all chalk artists, or is it a mix of mediums?
It's all chalk art, though they do have different categories, like I said. So like the Festival of the Masters at Disney, which we've done many years when they still had it. So they had like a best recreation of a master. They had a best still life, a best portrait, best high school, and like a people's choice. And so they had a lot of different categories. So you could, you know, multiple winners and stuff. And so we've won in portraiture and still life, and so a few different categories, and yeah, multiple different categories when we participated.
I've noticed a trend now too that on top of the chalk art festivals, some people are also have a section of like upright murals, and that adds another layer of interest as well. Just something different, like what the artist chooses to. I think it comes down to like personal preference. Like if the festivals have like a little bit of extra room, they'll have like a little section of just wall murals as well.
Interesting.
And, yeah, and those are done in just paint.
Gotcha. Is there anything you'd recommend to artists looking to get into this sort of thing, like resources to read or watch, certain materials to start out with?
I know it's gotten so hard for artists, especially like students nowadays, because funding for art programs have just all but gone away, and that makes us really sad. Which is why we try to have art programs whenever we go to conventions to just like, you know, show basic skills and stuff like that. But
the good thing about this medium is that it's very welcoming. You can just get a box of chalk from Walmart and go for it. And just because, you know, it's, you know, $1 doesn't mean that your art's going to be really bad. I've seen so many good paintings done with cheaper materials, so it's so welcoming, and you don't need like special brushes or anything. You just need your hands. Some people choose to do different blending apparatuses, but you don't need anything in particular.
Yeah.
So I really like that. Yeah, anyone can do it if you just go out there and do it. That being said, if you want to be more like in the style of what we do, those soft pastels that we use definitely give a better punch of color, and even putting down a layer of tempera, so that like if you're working straight on concrete, then that doesn't, it helps like keep your colors on the surface.
Mm-hmm.
And we, for like those huge areas, if you're working really large, we tend to like to use like a carpet square to help blend, so that our hands are saved a little bit.
Yep. And as far as like just like general, besides just chalk art, I would recommend just like experimenting. You know, we got into creating large murals of like anime and stuff like that because that's what we enjoy. And so if you have a subject that you also enjoy, I feel like you're going to be more motivated to keep at it and not be afraid of like, you know, something doesn't come out first. Like we didn't start out, you know, way back in the day, we were not that great. And so it just came down to a lot of practice. And
yeah, we would know what we wanted to do, and like an image that we had it planned out. And when we were like brand new and didn't really know the medium, we would just like take like, okay, I think I can create this color and this color, but that one color over there, like this mauve color or something, I don't know, it's going to be so hard to recreate. So let me just take what I think is going to bring out the color and just like go over on the sidewalk and recreate it until I got it. And doing those kind of little exercises, you know, we do that now in our heads. People think that, you know, we just can intuit it, and we can to a certain degree because we've done that in the past.
yeah,
We know the medium and how it works.
Yeah.
But it's been years.
For people who might not have the space to work outside right now, is there any kind of paper or other material you recommend working on indoors?
Definitely.
It ranges, and you know, it depends on what type of surface you like to work on. Since, you know, we've started on rougher surfaces, that's what we like to do. So a lot of times when people see us at conventions nowadays, we will be working on actually a primed canvas. So what we do is we prime it with a pastel ground, and that helps make this tooth, and that makes the chalk really stick to it. And that's what we like because it's really gritty. But then there's also a really, really affordable option is like doing masonite boards that you can get at Home Depot. those can be super big, or you can get them down really small. So it's very customizable.
Yeah. Or just experimenting with different kinds of paper and finding out what you like. I've seen people work on just like cardboard and pump out amazing pieces of art.
Sandpaper.
Yeah, working on sandpaper. Really, I feel like the options are limitless, and it just comes down to like personal preference.
Interesting. Yeah. So a lot of experimenting to do there too.
Yeah.
If you guys didn't become chalk artists, what do you think you'd be doing right now?
That is a tough one. Sometimes I ask myself that.
It's hard to know what our path would have been if we never went down the chalk art path. But actually, honestly, nowadays, like we've done some work with a scenic design company, and I've really enjoyed that. So like that includes like, you know, doing paint and stuff and fabrication for many different
like theme parks and museums and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's been really fun.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's necessarily something that would have happened if we hadn't gone down this mural kind of path, though.
Well, and you have your background in graphic design, so I could have also seen you becoming a graphic designer.
Definitely. Yeah.
So I see myself like I could have been a scenic designer, or like I also could have like also seen myself going like some completely different direction and being like a not an interior designer, but like a home organizer or something like that too.
You're really good at that.
If I wanted to chuck the whole art thing in general, but I feel like art would have always like kind of called me back. So
yeah, I know that when I was in college and even in high school, people would ask me like, oh, what do you want to do with your life? And I knew enough that I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do art. But there's so many different things you can do with just art. So it does. I mean, just being a creative person, there's so many different things you can do in the world.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Yeah, there's so many different avenues for design, and there's so many different mediums and even different directions you could have gone with the chalk art.
Exactly.
Definitely.
And to this day, we still don't like kind of pigeonholing ourselves. You know, we're always looking to go in different directions and find new avenues of work and stuff like that. And so, you know, we've done like 3D kind of murals and just like general murals and all that kind of thing. So
advertisements. Yeah. So keeping it varied.
Yeah, exactly. And the only thing that I don't think I would ever do is people more than you would think ask if we would do like tattoo work. And
yes.
I feel like chalk art is very temporary, and that's like one of the things I've learned to embrace. And so having to do a tattoo that would be on someone's body for the rest of their lives, I don't think I could live with that, you know?
Yeah, that's a completely different mindset.
Yeah. Yeah, especially because, like, you know, I look back at the work I've done 10 or even 5 years ago, and I'm like, oh, I've gotten so much better. And
I know people love, different stages of our art, and I can appreciate how our art has grown and where it has been, but it's definitely intimidating if it's permanent.
Yeah.
What kind of hobbies do you have outside of chalk art? Like, do you like to read? Do you like video games?
Yeah. Definitely. We have a decent number. We do like play video games when we can. Reading is definitely big. You've hit on two big ones.
I've taken up knitting, actually. I've been knitting for I think about 2 or 3 years now, and I've finally gotten to the point where I'm making things that I'm actually kind of proud of, that like I wouldn't be super embarrassed to like wear.
Oh my gosh, she Devin gave me a hat for Christmas, and it is literally amazing. I love it so much, and it's come a long way since the first hat, where I think it couldn't even fit the biggest of heads.
I know, I didn't know what I was doing back then.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and I've also taken up watercolor as well. That's just another like hobby that I never had much experience with. I always felt like ink and watercolor and stuff were something that were just a completely different way of thinking when it came to creating it. And so it was always really intimidating to me. But I've really gotten into it since the pandemic, and it's been actually like really relaxing. And it's also nice having those kind of like creative hobbies, as well as like playing video games and stuff like that, but having like other creative hobbies where I allow myself to fail and just like not be good at something and not have any expectations, which honestly is the same with video games, because I do not play video games very well. But it is kind of relaxing in that way to just not have any expectations on yourself.
Something that's not your job, but you can still be creative with.
Yeah.
I know I've gotten into calligraphy, which is something I've been wanting to do for the longest time. I've always wanted to improve my handwriting, which I think people think that artists naturally have good handwriting, but I don't. So I've always wanted to be better, and specifically beautiful writing, which is calligraphy. So I've started learning different scripts and working my way through that, and hopefully eventually being able to do my own kind of take on things.
And we've both randomly gotten into gardening as well.
That's so true. I think that's the one thing that's gotten us the most through the pandemic is the gardening.
Yeah.
So I've done an herb garden. So I've done different types of herbs like rosemary and sage and thyme, and you've gotten into the vegetables.
I've tried my best to grow something you can. And for some reason, everything comes out about the quarter of the size of what you see in grocery stores, but I count it as a win.
Hey, it's still edible.
Right, exactly.
It still definitely tastes good.
It's just a mini version.
Snack size.
Yeah, that's such a really nice outlet to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely seeing all your and then eating it.
Yeah.
Is there any subject matter, like a show or a movie or even something like the calligraphy, that you haven't put into your chalk art yet that you really want to soon?
That's a really good question. That is a good question. I know for like like my watercolor in particular, you know, we've been talking about how we really enjoy doing portraits, but I actually haven't been doing portraits in my watercolor because I find that kind of intimidating for some reason, and it's something that I've just started to do. And
well, I have to say, I partially maybe was intimidating, not because you can't do it, because you just proved you can, but the fact that you work so small on your watercolors,
Yeah.
which is so different from our chalk work.
Yes.
So I think that might be what's intimidating, is working so small and something that you're used to working so large on.
Yeah. And in general, like, we have all these ideas that we want to do as like large chalk drawings, but we just like, we keep writing them down, keep sketching out like little ideas of like what to eventually do, like for different shows. Like, you know, we got really into Schitt's Creek this past year, and we really, really love the show, but we haven't like done any fan art for it or anything yet. And honestly, I feel like that kind of is a trend where like the more we like a show or a certain kind of fandom, the more intimidated we are to
encapsulate that into a picture.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes it's hard to find the right place at the right time.
Yeah, exactly. It's like trying to find the right words in a song or something, you know, like when you have really strong emotions, sometimes they're just kind of hard to put pen to paper and to get out.
Yeah. Is there anything else you've been watching recently besides Schitt's Creek that you're really excited about?
We've been doing this thing where we have like a kind of bowl of comedies and a bowl of dramas, and we both put in suggestions. And
because we both watch things separately.
Yes.
And then we're like, okay, we need to watch this together.
Or we've heard that like we really need to watch this.
Right.
So yeah, we've been watching new shows like that, and so we're currently watching Bungo Stray Dogs together. That's really good.
And then as far as a drama, well, you recently got into like Downton Abbey.
Mm-hmm.
So there was something else.
Just a couple months ago too, we watched Star Trek Deep Space Nine, which is all the way from like the 90s, but we had never seen it, and that one like just really grabbed our hearts as well. And I really liked Assassination Classroom. That was really good. And we were watching Demon Slayer together too, right?
No, you watched it. It's on our list.
Oh, it's on the list.
Well, I watched a little bit, but we need to I need to dive more deeper into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really fun method to go about things, and you definitely hit on a few things that I'm really into myself. Especially Star Trek's really timeless, and there's so many to choose from.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So good.
Yeah.
It's definitely become a very favorite fandom of ours in general.
And it's nice too that like I feel like you can watch Star Trek over and over again, and like just depending on like where you are in your life or like what's going on in the world around you, like it kind of speaks to all different kind of topics and stuff that you may not pick up on a year ago, but you pick up on now. And so I really like that.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a favorite Star Trek?
For the longest time, it was 150% Next Gen. And then the next one that we watched that we really, really enjoyed was Voyager. But God, I have to say, once we watched Deep Space Nine, I think that might be both of them out.
I know. It was kind of blasphemous to say that that a show could be better than Next Gen, but Deep Space Nine has just been absolutely amazing. We've really, really enjoyed like all the storytelling and like that they weren't afraid to like go in a different direction than other Star Treks and be less episodic and more like dive deep into one topic. So.
Which that mindset I think has more influenced the modern Star Trek, which we aren't caught up with, but we were trying to.
And Picard
and
Discovery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I have a couple more questions to kind of round things out, one goofy one and then one nice one to wrap everything up. So if you guys were ice cream flavors, what ice cream flavor would you be?
That's different than like what is your favorite ice cream? Because I feel like I tend to gravitate towards like espresso ice cream. But am I espresso? I don't know. I might be more like a raspberry sorbet. I think, I'm gonna stick with that. I'm gonna stick with raspberry sorbet.
I like it. Do you have a deep meaning behind this?
Well, I feel like it's fun, a little bit different. Strawberry is kind of the classic, but a lot of people like raspberry. And I don't know. That it's can be sweet, but it also can be sour. I'm an artist. I could BS my way through this answer all day if you want me to.
Well, I am gonna go with one of my favorites, and I think I would be mint chocolate chip. It's like it's not the classic trio, the red or the strawberry vanilla chocolate, but it's like a hidden favorite of some. Like, you got those chips in there that keep things spicy and different, but then it's a cool mint kind of flavor.
And some people really don't like it because it tastes like toothpaste.
Yeah. I am just not everyone's favorite.
That's what we're trying to get at.
I love it.
Yeah, I don't.
All right, and to really round things out of everything that you've done in chalk or other mediums, what is your favorite piece that you've ever made?
Oh gosh, that's like asking what our favorite child is.
I think it definitely changes on our mood.
Mm-hmm.
In general, I'm really in love with our like smaller things that we've done, like in studio, like our spaceship series and our still life series, because we've been able to like especially with our still life series, I really enjoy encapsulating an entire series into like objects that people like, the series and what we're going for, so you get it, but not everyone does. And it's actually a similar thing with our starships. Kind of a character in the show is the ship a lot of times, so
yeah,
it's fun, like encapsulating an entire feeling of a show with one piece like that.
Yeah, we were talking about the Studio Ghibli piece we did for Tora-Con a couple of years ago, and I have to say that does remain one of my favorite pieces, just because like we love Studio Ghibli so much, and so that in itself it was really fun to work on. But also, like we said before, like the challenge of designing it was, it ended up being something I was really proud of having created. So. Yeah, I think that is still one of my favorites.
Yeah, a lot of hard work pays off.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's about it. That's about how much time we have for this panel. Thank you guys for talking to me today, and I want to wish everyone that's tuning into Tora-Connect a great time with all of the streams.
Thank you so much, Sally.
It's been so much fun.